welcome to another episode of the SD4L show. I'm Justin Thind. I'm here with my co-host Matt Sheehan. How are you doing today on this fine late Wednesday night, Matt?
We're getting wormy with it, man. Like, look, the streets of East Lansing are popping right now. It's mid-May. Usually that's sleepy season for a lot of programs out there, but JT, we've got some things to talk about, starting with one big worm eventually. But before that, JT, how are you doing, man? No one ever asks you how you are doing. Let me be the first one. How are you doing, man? Doing
Yeah,
okay?
Matt. We will talk about at the end how I am doing based on my difficulties with aviation in the past few days. But we will save that long rant to the end because we'll do the first 30 minutes on football and basketball, then we'll do the last 90 minutes on my grievances. So for now, I will give an answer of I am doing fine. Swell even, but I was not 2 days ago.
You are here though, so
Yes.
there's something to be said about that. But what a cliffhanger for the people! Come for recruiting, transfer portal talk, basketball and football. Stay for Justin Thin's first world problems, folks. This is as loaded of an episode as you can get in the dead middle of May. I'm fired up.
Let's go. Let's
go indeed. Is Coach Meat saving all of our lives? Like, just point blank, let's just get ahead of it right now. All of our favorite persons, or just most of our favorite persons?
Coach Meat is cooking. I saw him at Dakota yesterday, and he was locked in, while a lot of the other coaches from a lot of the other schools were kind of there networking, socializing. Coach Meat was hands on his knees watching a 5'6" senior with no football future, just timing him, just locked in. And just a pure ball guy, like just there to scout everybody and anybody that has no shot at playing at the next level. Then obviously Damari Malone and a couple of the guys at Dakota that do have Division I abilities. That was great to see. I would say that I've seen all of the coaches at Michigan State at camps in the last 4 years. I would say Coach Cap and Coach Hawk were the two guys that were especially locked in these settings. And Coach Mead is now right in that tier with them. It's kind of great to see all the coaches out and about. This is not what you asked, but I'll just go ahead and kind of share some
tidbits. For it. Go on.
So I had a chance to talk to Coach Rossi, Coach Wilt, Coach Hawk, Coach Meat, and Coach Blue Adams at Dakota yesterday for 30 to 40 minutes. Very, very genuine guys. You can see why they're able to close on a good amount of kids that they go after. Now, part of it is they're not going after kids that Oregon wants and stuff like that, so it helps. I'm not going to say that the previous staff wouldn't have had a high hit rate on some of these kind of tier of guys either, but it's just a different dynamic where you'll see, like I'll look over to this side and I see Coach Adams talking with 20 minutes for a grad assistant at SVSU, Saginaw Valley, teaching him the ins and outs of the game. Look over this way and Coach Hawk is talking to a kid that very clearly is not going to be playing FBS football, just telling him what he needs to do to get better. It's just a very, very genuine and very regular kind of interpersonal skill dynamic there. Whereas, the bar is not very high. If I were to say they sound like real, like people, genuine people, because most people are when you come across them. But you got to remember, like, these are coaches that people are always breathing down their necks. Coach, can I get an offer? Can you watch my huddle? Here they are, like mingling like common folk with anyone and everyone that they can in a public setting where really anybody can walk up to them. So I was very impressed by their mannerisms and stuff. And I think it's very clear to me why the family feel quotes are kind of what the most prominent ones are in this process.
Players that go up to coaches and say, like, hey, can I have an offer, or can you watch my huddle? Like, have you seen that happen a lot? Because obviously you see it on Twitter all the time, like sliding my DMs, here's huddle. Like, sometimes, like, I'll get bounced one. It's like, I'm the last person you should be sending that to. But regardless, in person, it happens a lot.
So they don't say, can I get an offer? What they do say is they'll say, Coach, this is my Twitter. This is my pin tweet. Here's my huddle. Can you watch it? I think I'm definitely good enough to get an offer.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, Toledo and Kent State, they're talking to me a lot. I think they're about to offer soon. If you guys offer, I'll commit right now. Like that,
Okay.
that's also how they go about wording it. But yeah, not as bold as kind of when the kids send the DMs to you and I and obviously the coaches.
Yeah.
They definitely are passionate about telling the coaches where they can find their huddle at the very least, if not more. And I don't know. I don't want to cast any aspersions based on just measurables and stuff, but like you'll see like a kid that's like 5'6", 245 playing defensive tackle,
Yeah.
and he's entering a senior year, and everyone knows he's not playing at Michigan State, and the kid will spend the entire time trying to talk to every Michigan State assistant coach. And keep in mind, like not at like a Dakota Combine Day, but at like a Wayne State Sound Body Camp, there's 400 of these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 6 hours, 7 hours of these coaches have to put up with that. And I think that this staff is going to be very well equipped to do that. And I don't know how many points it'll score with them, with those kids, because they don't really care, but with their coaches and the other influential people in Michigan and the Midwest, it'll help.
Shoot for the moon, kids. Like, that's what I'm talking about. There we go. No, I was just fascinated like how often that happens in person, because obviously doing it on social media, that's easy.
Yeah.
But man, going face to face and asking a coach, hey, watch my huddle. Like, strike while you have the golden opportunity in front of you. So that's okay. I know it's completely way off on a tangent. We got off on a tangent within 2 minutes of this show. That is a record for us as far as I'm concerned here. But hey, look, it's clear that the personalities of all these coaches, Coach Mead included, the guy that came from Oregon, really stuck with one, Ben Roberts. This is the latest news. Could be maybe arguably the most important transfer portal news as far as incoming transfers to Michigan State goes of the spring cycle. JT, Big Worm, what about him should have us all wiggling with joy? That is so corny. I should just leave right now. You know what? Edit all that out if you don't mind. But thanks. Okay, appreciate it.
So Matt, Big Worm, that nickname. There you go. There's the answer.
That's
but
it.
No,
like,
right. I think no. But did you notice that the part of his commitment graphic where everyone else's government name is there, his just said Big Worm. It wasn't even Ben quotations Big Worm Roberts. No, it was just Big Worm, and his legal name was nowhere to be seen anywhere else on the graphic. That was awesome.
I absolutely loved it. I like to think that he wasn't going to commit unless they let him just put Big Worm on the commitment graphic. I already love this kid. This is great.
Yeah, but the number one thing that sticks out to me is Oregon has been very, very picky in the Dan Lanning era of who they've taken at defensive tackle. Yeah. Big Worm was a 4-star coming out of high school in the 2022 class, played his redshirt season and then his freshman season at Oregon, played a combined 10 games in those 2 seasons, has 3 whole years of eligibility left. Obviously, with how loaded their D-line is, he didn't actually have much production in his redshirt freshman and true freshman seasons. So it's more of what the projection here is, what the long-term eligibility is, and things of that nature. I don't think he's going to come in here and have 8.5 tackles for loss in year 1 or anything like that. But it's more so of you have continued to have gotten younger with guys that have real potential that weren't just over here as redshirt juniors at Alabama losing their starting cornerback jobs. It's guys as redshirt freshmen that played more games than they did as true freshmen at a school that is loaded at defensive tackle, making his trajectory on a higher plane. So I think this is one of those moves where I don't know how many games won he adds to the 2024 season, which you can probably say about most of the transfers outside of obviously the Oregon State pickups and maybe Ed Woods. But these guys are establishing a floor for this year in terms of bodies and depth. And then pretty much all of them have long-term potential and multiple years of eligibility. So they're going to try to build this in a sustainable way that includes forward thinking. Whereas, hey, they might win 5 games this year and fans are going to be like, oh man, these portal pickups they had, they weren't as good as we thought they were. They're not supposed to be all coming in and just dominating and lighting the world on fire this year. It's about how does the 2025 roster look because of the moves they've made? How does the 2026 roster look because of the moves that are made? They're not going to take a 1-year rental and then be back at square one at defensive tackle next year if even the 1-year rental is a C+ guy, whereas you got a C- guy in terms of 2024 contribution. So it's about building the program. It's not about trying to claw your way to 1 extra win this year.
And not to grave dance on the last staff here. I mean, we all
Mhm.
know the story with that. But 2021, 2022, 2023, 3 recruiting classes, 2 interior defensive linemen they recruited. One of them, Derek Harmon. It's not going to be playing football in East Lansing this year. So they have to do some like backlogging and filling in here and talking about like young guys that we will get to more of here a little bit as we talk about more transfer additions. But yes, it's getting young guys with multiple years of eligibility. So 4-star playing at a pretty good program like Oregon. I mean, there
Mhm.
is a reason that he only got, I think it was 81 snaps in his 2 years here. They got some talented dogs over there.
Yeah.
But this is nice. The fact that he has 3 more years left because once Daquan Dowse leaves, once Maverick Hansen leaves, whomst is here? It's Alex Van Sumeren. It's Ben Nelson, former walk-on.
Raquan Buckley.
Raquan Buckley and Jalen Satchel. Does he have one more year after this one, or is this his
Yeah.
last one coming up? Yeah, let's just, anywhere between 1 and 4 years is what he has. No, but on a serious note, it is an empty room. Not just this year. Like this year, fine. Like at this point, you could skate by. But wow, with the
Right.
lack of recruiting for interior defensive linemen, you
Yeah.
need pickups like this. And also Raquan Buckley. You can talk about him and Jalen Satchel too if you just want to take the conversation there, because a lot of defensive transfer portal pickups since the last we've talked, JT.
Yeah. Satchel has 3 years left. So,
Okay, perfect. Okay,
yeah.
awesome.
So you're looking at Buckley having 2 years left, and you're looking at both of these guys having 3 years left. So, and then hopefully Alex Van Sumeren. I don't know how healthy he's going to be this year, it seems.
Right. Yeah.
He'll probably be fully medically cleared by the fall, but the issue is he didn't play all of last year. He tore his ACL in camp, so he missed the rest of that camp. He missed the season, and he wasn't active in spring camp. So it's his development more so than whether he'll be medically cleared or not. But the following year, he should be good to go, assuming he doesn't re-injure anything. But yeah, so then you have these 3 guys right here. They got Mike Schunbeeler from the 2024 class coming in by then. So you have 4 bodies right there, and then they'll hit 2025 hard at defensive tackle. So it's going to be a process. And I don't know what the top tier of this defensive tackle room is going to be able to provide. I think their top tier talent in that room for 2024 is kind of iffy to me. But you have bodies now finally, and you can rotate guys, and they can be fresh, and you can withstand injury. So they did the absolute best they could, and they also set a precedent and set an example of how they're going to treat guys that kind of try to negotiate in bad faith, and that's a building block for the future culture. So all things considered, I think they did as good of a job as they could with the defensive line in this portal cycle. And then kind of just transitioning to some of the other commits since we last spoke in Tyler Gillison, another stand-up edge rusher that they got in addition to Anthony Jones that they got earlier in the portal window. They've kind of replenished that room too. And I think you're looking at probably one of Chris Bogle or Jalen Thompson staying on that side and being the starter, and probably the other guy out of those 2 being the down lineman starter on the other side, if not Quindarius Dunnigan. So your starters are kind of set there no matter kind of how you place them. But now you have rotational depth, and those guys are all young. They all have eligibility. So I think they just did a great job of building for the future in this portal cycle, and also leveraging relationships in order to do it, with Jones having worked with Coach Wilt and Coach Meat. And now you're looking at Jalen Satchel coming over from Old Dominion, where he was teammates with Wayne Matthews. And you're looking at Tyler Gillison, whose brother played at Michigan State as a tight end. So they're building a certain type of program here, and I think it'll pay off in the long term. We'll see what it does for the 2024 win total, though.
Yeah, and similar to the defensive tackle room, backlog and everything, patching holes because, well, there would be no one else in the room after this year. That's kind of what you get with Marcellus Polium too, right? Like the true freshman, or I guess former true freshman Miami player that played a ton for the Hurricanes. Got an interception against Boston College, so the Golden Eagles better be ready in week 3. That's right. Just that has to be the reason they got him, just because he has their number. But again, like this is a pretty senior-laden group here in the linebacker room. I mean, obviously not Jordan Hall, of course, but Cal Halliday, Wayne Matthews, and Jordan Turner. Those are older guys. And with the last staff, you can understand why maybe linebacker wasn't their main emphasis. They had a 2-linebacker system. Okay, whatever. But nevertheless, it was Jordan Hall. They also recruited Quavion Carter. He's no longer here. That's going to be a problem for him to play moving forward. And then I don't know what's going on with Darius Snow's eligibility. I don't know if this is the last one coming up. Nevertheless, the room gets empty after this year, and especially after the following year, too. It's just Jordan Hall and then Brady Pretzloff. Two guys that you feel fine about. Don't get me wrong, but depth anywhere, please, I beg you. So, yeah, that's what you get with Marcellus Pulliam. Again, power 4 football. Experience. Now, I will say that most of his snaps came in special teams, but nevertheless, if you're finding your way in a field, even as a true freshman anywhere, with 3 years of eligibility remaining, we're not in a position to be picky about it. And even if we were, I think I'd still be welcome to that addition here. So, yeah, I mean, it's been some good savvy, not just this year work, but I mean, we've been talking a lot about, what this means for 2025 and 2026 in our side chats here too. So it's good foresight by Jonathan Smith, I think, with these. Not sexy right now, but man, you know what? It's going to add wins in 25 and 26.
Yeah, and I think it's been pretty good by the fan base too to see it the same way. I don't see as many people as I thought that would be like, oh man, we lost Derek Harmon and we're just getting guys that could be good down the road. That's all you can do. Like, you're not going to go ahead and like I guess you could have given an obscene amount of money to Javier Suggs, who's the best available DT in the portal, who, let alone FCS, he's only played at D2, and then hope that translates to this level.
Yeah, right.
And then he'd probably take more money than probably your 4 best transfers you have right now combined in this portal window. So yeah, like that's the alternative. So like I think these guys have done as good of a savvy job as they could have, and I think most people recognize that. And I think it's been a fun few weeks here. So anyone else we've missed on the defensive side of the ball? You touched on Pulliam there. They'll also continue to talk to Samaj Bridgman, the linebacker from Imhotep that played at Michigan his true freshman year.
Okay.
And I think he might take some more visits, but I think Michigan State is optimistic there. They're not looking to, I guess what I should say is they're not looking to guarantee or throw a bag at somebody at a position where they know that they will not see the field in 2024. Whereas linebacker, you said it's very senior laden.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Bridgman's receptive to that. And they'll obviously be open to rewarding him if he sees the field the following year. So that's kind of the precedent that they're kind of conveying to him, and he seems to be well level-headed with that. So we'll see if that gets done, but I like the approach they're taking there, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, is that it for the defensive side of the ball with transfers, Matt?
Legend Cavazos.
Yes.
So Ed Woods, that was a really good pickup. That was a guy that Arizona State did not want leaving their program, and what's better than one of those kind of guys? 2 of those kind of guys, because Legend Cavazos, yes, he only played, I believe it was 7 snaps last year. He had a meniscus injury before the season. He started the year prior, the last 3 games of the season, as North Carolina went to the ACC championship game. And this spring was practicing a little bit with the 1s, a little bit with the 2s. Nevertheless, this was also a guy that North Carolina didn't necessarily want to see go. This was not a situation where, he just lost his spot and he's just going for greener pastures, trying to find better playing time. That's a legitimately good pickup for Michigan State.
Yeah.
So it's just fascinating, though, because, they add Ed Woods. I'm thinking, hey, good, great, awesome. Chance Rucker on one side, Ed Woods on the other. At least you're getting some depth here. But now this is just a total, wholesale changeover. I'm sure Chance Rucker will still have some time here, but I think you're going to talk about it here in a little bit. They still might not even be done, even with Cavazos in the mix, with Woods in the mix. They keep wanting to throw wood on this fire, which if we watch the last 3 years of Michigan State football, I don't know any single Spartan that's going to be irritated whatsoever with adding as many corners and secondary pieces as you humanly can.
Yeah.
And 15 more if you can. I mean,
yes.
This is nice.
So
nice.
So they've added, obviously, Ed Woods, who I would expect to start on the outside on one of the sides. Then as you just spoke about, Legend Cavazos from UNC there, he could probably start at nickel, assuming that they will probably move Spencer back up to safety where he played last year, because kind of what they were doing was Mangum and Tatum were the deep safeties. Spencer was down at nickel in camp. I would assume they'd be more comfortable just putting Mangum and Tatum back at safety and then keeping Armorion Smith and Khalid Majid as rotational guys. But then what you can do after that is you're looking at Cavazos as your possible starting nickel, Edwards as your possible starting corner on one side. And then you're looking at best available of Chance Rucker, Charles Brantley, Ade Wiley, out of the current guys already being pretty good options for the other corner spot. And now you introduce Kobe Minor, who today Matt Zenitz and Chris Hummer put in their crystal ball predictions, and Corey Robinson and I had been hearing all day that that's the way that was trending. So we expect that to be good news for Michigan State when he goes public. And Kobe Minor, Matt, 40-plus career tackles, honorable mention at Indiana as a corner. Not Matt, bad. The last time I believe that Michigan State had an honorable mention or better corner was Shakur Brown all the way in 2020. So wow. It's going to be an on-paper upgrade from Michigan State corner play of the last 3 years immediately the day he commits. Now, we'll see how it translates, but on paper, he is the most qualified corner they have landed in 3 years. So he would be in the fold at that point. And then they're still not going to be done as far as they're concerned. Then they're going to try to bring in Jeremiah Hughes, the LSU true freshman that played in 10 games, I believe. Yes. Most of them special teams, obviously, but that's going to be another guy they look to bring in. So then you suddenly go from Charles Brantley probably being your second best corner the day Coach Demetrius Martin got here to maybe being your fifth or sixth best corner now. And that was the mission that the man was on, is to raise the floor and kind of even raise the ceiling with some of these guys. Obviously, they'll have to stay healthy, like Cavazos' injury history. But this is Coach Meat, different breed.
I can get emotional right now. Like, this is look. Okay, let me pause here. Like, we're not saying that the no-fly zone has returned to East Lansing, and that this is just going to be, we're going to limit every team to under 150 passing yards a game. Like, but it can be average,
right?
Tell me that average isn't a marked improvement to what we've been seeing the last few years here. I think a lot of us State fans would sign whatever dotted line is in front of us if that could just get us like a, I don't know, 50th best unit in the nation. And it could even be better than that with those guys for sure. I mean, there's experience there, there's talent there, but like, wow. Yeah. I thought we were just going with Ed Woods, and I was like, hey, you know what? Fine. That's a good job. But Coach Meat, Jonathan Smith, Joe Rossi. Yeah. Keep on adding the talent there. Thank God.
Yeah. The best way that I would put it is, while none of these guys may be saviors, none of these guys may even be an NFL draft pick at corner. There is a huge, huge gap from being an NFL draft pick to where the corner level play post Shakur Brown was at this program. And even if they're in the dead middle of that spectrum, that's enough for us to say they're clear upgrades from what they've been playing without us actually saying they're great or that they're going to be playing in the NFL. So they can be upgrades, substantial upgrades, without us declaring them saviors. And that is kind of the best way that I would describe kind of what the cornerback room is looking like right now.
And really quick, this feels like it happened 2 months ago, but before we get into a little bit of 2025 recruiting talk, the offense did pick up technically a transfer. It seems like just a member of the 2024 class. It is Andrew Dennis. Welcome back home. The prodigal son has returned. JT, when he announced his, decommitment or transfer away from Illinois, do you think there's ever a doubt that it was going to be MSU or no? Okay, I'm seeing
no, not a doubt at all. The staff at Michigan State doesn't tamper. And I'm not just saying that. Like, if I knew that they tampered, I just wouldn't have brought up the topic of tampering.
Yeah, right.
So they don't tamper like the other schools do. And at the same time, Andrew Dennis, he knows that, okay, 6 months ago, I had a good relationship with the staff when they arrived. I knew they wanted me badly. Here I am feeling homesick in Illinois. The chances of them wanting me if I enter the portal are going to be very high, especially since they had just lost Gino Vandermark. And either way, he knew how many scholarships they had. So it was very logical for him to enter the portal. And Michigan State was the first school to reach out, and it went exactly how he thought it would. So this is the exact plan that he wanted. This is exactly how he thought it would play out if he entered the portal, without actually needing to have it be a done deal before he entered. So, that was always the way that it was going to trend. It's good to have him back, friend of the pod. We had a blast interviewing him back over the summer. He was obviously the former face of the recruiting class at the time, and he's back. So I don't know necessarily how much I would expect a true freshman from Mount Pleasant to come in and dominate at the P4 level in his first year or two, but as much potential as any offensive lineman that Michigan State's recruited in a while. And he was a top 175, top 180 kid in his class. So the objective analysts of the likes of Alan True would agree with that. So bright future ahead for Andrew Dennis, regardless of maybe how much he plays or doesn't play this year.
Yeah, thrilled to have him back. And since we've talked last, there have been 3 additions to the 2025 class. If I'm doing my math right, math was never my strong suit, I'm not sure. But most recently, Chase Clarizio, running back out of East Lansing. You also got Emmett Bork, the tight end out of Wisconsin the day before. And then the day before that, Damari Malone, linebacker out of Macomb, Dakota.
Yes, sir.
JT, that's right. That is right. Let's go. Football powerhouse Macomb, Dakota, man. Playing at the house that Justin Thind built. That's right. Dakota just makes them different, don't they, JT?
Yeah.
Take it away. Yeah. Out of the mud at Macomb, Dakota. Let's go.
Yeah. I should add the caveat. I didn't actually go to Dakota. I went to the International Academy of Macomb because I'm a nerd.
Not important. But that's okay.
Grew up 2 minutes from Dakota.
See, there we go. That's better. That's better.
The 4.5 years that I've been in the industry, been waiting for Dakota to just give me a reason to walk down the street and cover somebody there. Only time I've been there in professional capacity since was to watch Jalen Thompson and Castech come in there and beat Dakota in the state playoffs last year. Gotcha. And here we go. And Damari Malone gave me that reason to kind of pop in. And 5 Michigan State coaches, like I said, were there yesterday for his combine. When Coach Smith came in and talked to Dakota's coaches, right after he was hired, it was the first time that a Michigan State coach had stopped by in 5 years. And they're as serious as it gets about their in-state recruiting. I've talked to them off the record about this in addition to on the record. And they're basically, their sentiment is, why make it harder on yourself to get not all your commits, but some of your commits, and use your brand power that you have in Michigan and Ohio, then maybe branch out and reach for the stars in the West Coast where they still have a lot of connections, especially Coach Meat. He's all over the West Coast corners, and Coach Hawk is still going to try to get some guys from Texas at receiver. But let me put it this way. Michigan State is not the same Michigan State that you and I may remember, Matt, from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Kids that are in high school now, they've seen 1, maybe 2. You can count the Holiday Bowl season as good Michigan State seasons. I was a high school junior in 2016, or actually my senior year had just started when they went 3-9. So that's kind of the last 7 years of Michigan State football outside of Kenneth Walker and then the Holiday Bowl. So you're not going to be able to walk in because of your logo into Buford, Georgia, and just go ahead and get 3 plan A kids from there. So these guys understand that. They remember how they originally built Oregon State. They're going to compete in a way where they're going to compete when they know that they can, not because they're scared to compete, but just because they have self-awareness and an understanding of where things sit. And that's kind of the way that I look at it, and that's why you see the emphasis in the in-state realm. And then Chase Clarizio, who you mentioned, I guess just putting a bow on Damari Malone, basically he's a true linebacker, but built as you could possibly want a kid to be at this age, and he could probably play rush end if they wanted him to, but he moves well, and I would anticipate that he's a traditional linebacker with the ability to move to rush end. Good looking player. But yeah, Chase Clarizio, East Lansing High School. He's kind of the one cut back that they typically want. He's a little lighter than some of their one cut backs, but has good speed as a result of that. And if you watch his tape, he doesn't do anything elite, but he does a lot of things well. Just a balanced guy. He doesn't waste a lot of time dancing around. He'll make the one cut. He'll explode. So kind of the mold of Brandon Tulis and Mekhi Frazier, but East Lansing version of that. So that's kind of what you're looking at with those 2 guys. And then Emmett Bork, the tight end from Wisconsin. He's the final guy. Yeah. Brian Wozniak, he's been all over the Midwest and even branching into the South a little bit down into Kansas, offering Lincoln Cure and some other guys. He's been very particular about who he's offered, despite kind of looking far and wide. And when he offered Emmett Bork, just I would say a week before he committed, he was ready to take that commitment, and he liked him a good amount. The 24/7 rating might just be an 82 for now, and he might not have rankings from other schools, but Wozniak wasn't just taking anybody's commitment, and they're in a good spot with a lot of guys they offered before Bork. So that tells me a lot about what they like about him. Again, just like kind of Clurzio, there's no one part of his game that he does exceptionally well. It's just a good football player that can do everything that they ask of him, and now he's ready to come in and be developed. So that's kind of my rundown on the 2025 high school guys they've got in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, you can kind of see the vision with the strategy, right? Because I go back to, what we just saw the last years here, where, look, they did get some good recruits, not committed to the class, but also a lot of good visitors. That was fun. I remember those days in June, 4-star galore. We got some 5 stars. And then crap. Not enough of those kids that we saw were going to commit actually committed, and it is a month before signing day, and oh God, we just had all these top 300 kids on campus, top 400 kids. Okay, well, here, plan B. Where are the 400 through 800 kids that we have never talked to our entire lives? And oh my God, now we're scrambling late. Who else is out there? And then we're just throwing flyers out there to anyone that wants to take them. And they got some kids, but now it's kind of like reverse, where it's like, okay, we want to make sure that we have a good foundation right now before official visits even start, so we're not panicking at the last minute wondering, where do we go wrong, how do we go wrong, oh God, there's only 18 kids in this class. So you can kind of see what they're doing here. They're building what they call a foundation in recruiting. Like, is it the sexiest thing in the world to have 5 guys in your class and none of them in the top 600 in the composite? No, and I think that'll change too, but that's for a different discussion. But it's not sexy, but it is essential for recruiting. I mean,
and
I think that's the best way to put it.
Right, and you can look at the guys that just got drafted, guys that just put in the league, guys that excelled for them at Oregon State. David Martinez, he was an 89. He was a high Texas 3-star, but a lot of these other guys, like even Tanner Miller, who came here, he was a walk-on.
Right.
Kitano Ladapo, not a 4-star. All the guys that got drafted, Anthony Gould, not highly rated. Like, there is a proven track record, and it's not selling hope when somebody says these guys know what underrated kids look like, and they will develop them, because that's how they beat Oregon. Literally, they beat Nike Inc. 2 years ago with a bunch of 3-stars and former walk-ons, while Phil Knight is pumping tens of millions into their program. So they have done it. This is literally what they do, and they're going to have probably an extra year or two before you start to see some of these kids make impacts than maybe you would expect a borderline 5-star or a 4-star to do it. But what happens once 2025 and 2026 and 2027 roll around is that you don't have a bunch of kids that are going to say, I finally had my breakout year, let's go ahead and bolt for cash and go elsewhere. Because what happened when this coaching staff moved 1,000 miles east from where they were, Matt? They had kids like Tanner Miller and Jack Velling and Aiden Childs follow their coaches here with no drama, and that's because of the relationships that were built going back to high school. And as long as they continue to develop kids the way that they have done so, that is the loyalty that they will get back in return, and that's what you need in this era where it's almost impossible. So this is the most sustainable way to do it. Let's see if people's over on the win total bets hit this year. Maybe not. But I think this is the best and only way to kind of do it at Michigan State.
It's building the foundation. Like, I think it's the best way to sum it up. I know it's very cliche, but really, I mean, through the transfer portal, through recruiting, we're kind of seeing it play out right here. JT, do we want to yell about basketball at each other right now? Because that was a very cordial half hour of conversation. Let's get it. Yeah, because There's a civil war amongst Michigan State basketball fans that's been waging for quite some time now, and we are at just about a fever pitch here. And I think the latest edition of one, Szymon Zapala, fine player, has only stoked those flames.
Yes.
What have you got to say about it?
Yes.
Let's just start there.
There's 2 massively glaring things that stick out to me about Szymon Zapala, Matt.
Have I been saying it that wrong the whole time?
Yes, I believe it is Szymon. Shimon is like the phonetic spelling, but maybe he pronounces it differently. But Google kind of was inferring that people with that spelling pronounce it that way, but he might have Americanized it. So you could be right in terms of how he says it.
Oh, yeah, me and pronunciation. I do not assume that I'm right. No. Okay. Anyway, Mr. Szymon. All right.
So, Matt, the one thing that sticks out to me is at Longwood University, or is it Longwood College, or is it the College of Longwood? Either way,
We'll call
at the
university.
institution, at the institution that has Longwood in its name, he played 16.7 minutes per game. Period. That's the first thing that sticks out.
Yeah.
On the other side of the coin, Matt, if you watch the footage that's out there on him, he has things that he can do that the centers at Michigan State have not been able to do just in recent memory. The things that he can do, I don't care if he's only doing them over 16.7 minutes per game. Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler and Mady Sissoko and even guys before them, they're not able to do those things in a tangible, in a vacuum scope of the bag that he has. He is better than all the centers Michigan State has had in the last 2 to 3 years. Then the flip side to saying that sentiment would be, well, Justin, a lot of people would be better than those guys. So should we be celebrating? The answer to that, I would say, is no, you should not be celebrating. But that's what the nuance there is for, is this is a guy that probably no one is celebrating. At the same time, you cannot convince me that Michigan State didn't get better when they picked him up. Would you have liked to have seen him play 22 minutes per game instead of 16.7 minutes per game? Absolutely. Now, people like Ant Wright, who obviously not a Michigan State guy, and he would say he's not a Michigan guy, but that's kind of how I think of him. He's over there saying in his video unprompted that he's only playing 16.7 minutes a game because he is a very hard rim runner every single possession, every single missed shot.
Yeah.
When's the last time we had a rim runner at Michigan State, Matt? So, like, these are the things that you kind of don't know until you have footage of every single Longwood game and you're sitting there looking at it. And I don't have that. And I think at the end of the day, we can't really take a hardline stance until November, December, January, February. All I know is I wish he played more minutes than he did. At the same time, I like what I see, and that's kind of the two sides of the coin. And that's really all the thought and kind of summarization I'm willing to put on him, because anything more than that, I would be making assumptions on projection, and there's just a lot of projection here.
Yeah, sure. And like, to be fair to him, Szymon, he is an upgrade over Mady Sissoko. With all due respect to Mady Sissoko, but like, I'm not going to be one of the people that's like, oh, well, we should have never gotten rid of Mady. Like, yes, you can, because I mean, Zapala, he does have something called post moves. And again, when's the last time you've seen that in East Lansing?
Right.
It's been quite some time here.
Nick Ward. As much as people love Xavier Tillman, he was just an elite and phenomenal screen and roll guy. You weren't really giving it to him on the low block and seeing him make any moves. And before Nick Ward, I don't know when the last time before that was. So, like, Michigan State's never really had a dominant low post presence, and they don't need one. They just need someone that's competent when they catch the ball, has a little bit of a plan, and then can block shots and get rebounds and play hard.
Just be 7 feet tall, you know?
Yes,
just be a tall human being, which Michigan State was kind of lacking here going into the offseason. Obviously, Xavier Booker, it's tall. Carson Cooper, tall. Jesse McCulloch, tall, but I don't know how much he's going to play. But the height just kind of falls off a cliff after that.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I think I'm going to blend like conversations that we've had here. Because with football, what did we just talk about with defensive tackle? Okay, that they're supplementing with young players. If you're not going to get an instant impact now guy, a guy that's going to be playing more than 16 minutes at Longwood, or say, for example, more than 16 minutes at Michigan State, well, at least get a guy that, hey, maybe you can mold, because just like the defensive tackle room for football, just like the linebacker room for football, what don't you have a lot of is young centers, because I don't know if you just forgot about the position or what, but the plan right now is Jackson Kohler and then, Carson Cooper. That's a former guy that wasn't even ranked in the recruiting rankings. He was just supposed to be a project that maybe one day can be a role player, and now you've saddled Carson Cooper in a very uncomfortable situation where, well, he's kind of the guy now moving forward at center, because Zapala's only got 1 year of eligibility. So it's either get an instant impact, a guy that could start right off the bat, or hey, get a guy that could, be here for a few years. I don't know who's going to develop him. I don't know if I trust the development of big men, but hey, at least I see the vision. This, yes, you got a little better, with your big men. But wow, for a program like Michigan State, as you're seeing other programs like Indiana going ahead and getting Ballo, as you're seeing Ohio State getting Stewart and Bradshaw, as you're seeing Michigan get two great big men too, it's like, oh boy, it seems like we could have bit a little more off the bone if we're going to be this big bad program like Michigan State. And this is a great point that Greg Waddell of Sleepers Media brought up on his show with Carter Elliott, two fantastic gentlemen. It's like, I get that you don't want to bring in this big player to, maybe ruffle the feathers of a Jackson Kohler, of a Carson Cooper. Well, damn it, why not? And this is the point that Greg Waddell brought up. It's back in Nick Ward's freshman year. He had a great freshman year. And you could see that maybe one day he could be this all Big Ten big man. But what'd you do the very next year? You got Jared Jackson. You got Xavier Tillman. Two guys that are going to give him competition immediately. It seems like we've watered down competition for the sake of, what here? So I don't know. It's a big gamble. I mean, Izzo is saying to the world that, yes, I do believe in Cooper. I do believe in Kohler. I hope to God he's right. I would love to be a Ron son of a you-know-what, but that's quite the duo that you're putting essentially the tail end of your career and your reputation. I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think part of the math that factors in, which again is based on the assumption that Cooper and Kohler as seniors are pretty good, which we'll see. But what they're also factoring in is, I think he might redshirt this year, maybe not. He was a great rim protector senior year, but Justin McCulloch is pretty much going to be a pure center at this point. Throughout his recruitment, I was told that he's a power forward. He's a power forward because he's a very great shooter from the outside, great stroke, great percentages. But then I think he got a little stronger and he got another inch or two taller, and he's pretty much a very good rim protector from what they're hearing, what they think. So I guess the argument, Matt, is you take a Sean Stewart like Ohio State got, who didn't really do anything. He was behind Cal Filipowski at Duke, but he can jump out of a gym. He's athletic. He has all the potential in the world. Top 30 guy, I think. But then what happens is you're basically saying that Cooper and Kohler are not good enough to start as seniors at Michigan State. Now, you and I may think, well, that's what we think is the case. They disagree. If they disagree, then they are not going to take that guy that's going to be here as part of four centers in the 2025-2026 roster. So that's what it is. It's essentially, I don't believe that they think that Cooper and Kohler will be better than Zapala this year. I think it's more so that they have faith in themselves, right or wrong, that in 2025, that if they are the coaches that they think they are, that they can turn Carson Cooper into a top 7 starting big man in college basketball. And they think that the best thing that they could probably do out of the portal is get someone that's maybe the 6th best center in the 2025 in the Big Ten, and who would cost 4 times as much, because they're not getting on Omar Ballo. They're just not going to go and pay $2 million for a center until the day Izzo's done here, period. That's just not what they're going to do. And they might be willing to go get a center that's $800,000. I'm not saying they're going to sit on their hands and not pay anybody, but when you go and get the guy that's making $800,000 instead of the guy that's making $2 million, then the argument is, how much better is he going to be than Carson Cooper in 2 years? If he's way better than Carson Cooper in 2 years, then you have a huge, massive development issue, because there's enough of a foundation and a platform in Cooper that you should be able to turn him into the 7th best center in the Big Ten in 2 years from now, if you're doing your job. So that's kind of the way that they look at it. We don't have to agree. I don't know what Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler will be in 2025, but that's kind of the math that goes into it. We talk about defensive tackle. Well, Matt, they don't have anybody there except maybe Alex Van Sumeren. So that's why they're getting the long-term guys. To these guys, they have that in Jesse McCulloch, and then they have 2 years out of Kohler and Cooper. So that's why they don't want to block them. Should they think like that? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I personally think one of those two guys can be a 7th best center in the Big Ten in 2025. Which of the two? I don't know. Probably Cooper, but I don't know. I agree that this is not the center play that Michigan State has had in the past, but I also think, I don't think the portal was going to solve that. I think it goes back to recruiting the last several years. So it goes back to recruiting since the Kithier days. even Marcus Bingham, he ended up being a good defender who I think Jesse McCullough can be that kind of defender, but that wasn't a great culture fit either. He didn't have any big issues or anything, but just not the motor you expect. So it's just not, I think it's a high school recruiting and development issue more so than them just saying, let's balk on 100%, the portal.
100%.
So that's how I would put it. And it's not that I'm letting them off the hook for what the center position looks like now. It's just, I would rather blame them for having the high school stretches they've had more so than blaming their portal strategy this year. That's where I choose to put my blame. And people would say, well, you can undo your failures in the high school portal by your decisions in this year's portal. And I would say that, yeah, I probably would have tried to have gotten maybe Ogana Onyensu from maybe a Kentucky or something. But I guess you're splitting hairs because he's not putting you 2 or 3 seed lines higher than you're at right now. So at the end of the day, you've made the bed that you've made from 3-4 years of high school recruiting. And I think that they were just going to have to piece it together at center this year. And that's what they did. And they got a guy that scored 9.8 points per game and 16.7 points per game that has played against Euro competition growing up. And he has a bag. So we'll see what they do with it.
And believe me, like I do feel bad, like just being like this much of a Debbie Downer about it, because I like what you do see, again, granted 16.5 minutes per game at Longwood, but just like Ant Wright pointed out in his video, and you could go watch some other games too, he's doing hockey shifts out there. Like he is busting his you-know-what, like truly, like, yes, like this guy is gassing himself all the time. Now, is that a condition issue? Is that just because it's hard to love around as a 7-footer? I guess we'll just find out here this winter in East Lansing. But yeah, he does also have, a front of the hoop game. He can work his way down from 13 feet away from the hoop. And then next thing you know, he's finishing over his right or left shoulder. Like he does have things that should excite us as Michigan State fans. It's just, I don't know. I guess just always the pursuit for wanting a little more. And then also, I think that most of the issue on my part is like, you kind of have done some FUBAR with the center recruiting here out of high school. And maybe a younger guy could have helped that a little bit, but nevertheless, doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the Hall of Fame head coach thinks. And I think that's what a lot of people also side with too. So it's, I mean, I did not think that I'd just be like, this much of an Eeyore after getting a center out of the portal. But, I don't know. I like
thinking they got 13 scholarship guys. Yeah, they got 13 scholarship guys, and that was not something I would have expected. So
that's true. It's a full roster.
At least there's that.
Look, I do want to say this too. I think overall it has been still a good offseason. Like I'm not saying that, just because it's underwhelming center, like it's been a dud of an offseason. Like I think overall, if I was in a weird situation where I was backed into an alley and someone put a gun to my head and said, "Hey, was this a positive or a negative offseason?" I'd blur out the word positive. Yeah, Frankie Fiddler. That's pretty good. Xavier Booker. Expect a good season from him. Like it's fine. I just wonder how much it raises MSU's ceiling.
Right. I agree. Yeah. I'd say before the offseason started, what everybody would have said would have been get a wing that does not disrupt Xavier Booker's development and that keeps Shaden Akins happy in his move to the 2.
Yep.
Number 2, get a center that's better than Mari Sissoko. Number 3, try to use as many spots on the roster as you can. And they've done that. So it's not someone way better than Mari Sissoko. So that's where people can quabble. But in terms of binary checking the boxes on the wish list, they've done those things. Now it's just to what degree that they do them. And that's where I'm going to say, let's wait until November and December, and we will go from there.
Now let's give the people what they truly want here. Do you either want to tell people why you're going to be sleeping for the next 48 hours, or do you want to educate everyone on FAA laws, or some combination of the two, JT? Because let's learn about your suffering here. Let's do it.
Well, Matt, spent the Thursday through Monday morning in Marco Island, the scenic Marco Island.
Never go. Dirty water, horrible, like, homeless people everywhere. No one listening go to Marco Island ever. Yes. It's terrible.
Matt is saying that because it is very empty and it is awesome.
It's the best.
My buddies and I went to the beach at 11 a.m. on a Saturday to play pickleball, and not one soul was on the massive beach. And you'll never see that at Miami. You'll never see that anywhere else you go. Even you go to Holland, Michigan, and it looks like the biggest tourist trap in the world. So that was great. Played some pickleball. just a solid trip. And for those that don't
good.
know, Matt was an exemplary tour guide because he's there pretty much more often than he's in Michigan. So
a few times a year, man. It's a blessed spot that we're in. Yeah. Marco Island is fantastic. Never go there. Don't.
Yes,
don't.
Please do not. Please do not. Not even the restaurant lines were long. So what I would say is that the trip was great. Then, Matt, we arrive at the Fort Myers International Airport.
Yeah.
At 9 a.m. for our 11.
Incredibly mediocre airport, by the way.
Yes, just the most mediocre airport.
Shockingly mediocre.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't even have a Lufthansa lounge or whatever counts on your Venture X card, man. No
lounge. Poor person's airport. It's a poor person's airport.
Yes.
Oh.
So we pull in at like 9 o'clock. Flight's supposed to board at like 10:30. It's supposed to take off at 11. We get on the plane at 10:30. Everything's going smoothly. And I should add, this is a Spirit flight. Keep in mind, I'm 25. All my buddies are 24, 25. Half of them are in medical school. So different financial circumstances. I didn't want to be the one guy that was like, all right, let's fly Delta, just because I've been luckily working for 2.5 years after graduation now, and I would have been fine doing that. But it's like, whatever, people do it all the time. I've done it twice before, no issues. I'm not going to be the one to push for the more expensive ticket. I'll go with the flow.
Take one for the team.
That's not what's going to be happening in the future. So we get on the plane at 10:30 and everything is looking great. Then suddenly it's 11:30 and we have not left the gate. The pilot comes on the intercom and says that some people have made some complaints about like some bad odor coming out of the AC, that they're working on fixing the issue. And then another 20 minutes go by and he goes, well, we can't fix the issue because we have decided that the actual one of the two air conditioning units in the plane is what is literally exuding the odor. So the only way that it can be fixed is if they simply shut off that AC unit and just use the other one on the flight. Perfect. And he says, in order to do that, we have to let you off the plane because it's going to get too hot. Because they have to shut the whole AC unit down first because they want to try to just reboot the whole thing and see if that would work before they went to that. So they shut off all the AC units, Matt. The plane, they claim, reached 120 degrees while they did it, while they're updating us while we're at the gate. Then they said they opened all the doors. They put these tubes that bring outside air into the plane, and then they got it down to about 90, and that they were just waiting for it to get to 85, and then they would let us in. Well, Matt, 4 hours go by, and believe it or not, when it's 90 degrees outside of the plane and it's sitting on a burning hot tarmac and it's a sheet of metal, it's not going to be much cooler than that, especially when only one of the two AC units is on. Now, I only got a 2.5 in my thermodynamics class, but I can tell you about how that works very simply. Anyway, it is about 4 o'clock now, and they're saying, we're close. It's at like 87 degrees. Just let it dip below 85. And keep in mind, this is not an FAA law, which I spoke to the pilot for about 20 minutes later in the day. And he said that, it's a company policy because Spirit suddenly wants to be the authority on safety and rules and regulations.
I thought Spirit it has to be at least 85 to take off. That shocks me. Okay, I thought this was an FAA thing.
Right.
I stand corrected. Okay.
So at about 4 o'clock, they're like, all right, we're close. 4:30, they're like, all right, we're going to try to board again. It just dipped below 85. And they weren't announcing the 85 part over the intercom. I kept going up to get updates, and the people at the gate were as helpful as you could hope for in this situation. And
yeah, that's good.
They're like, all right, it's at 83. We're going to board. Well, the issue is, Matt, once a third of the people get on the plane, it spikes up to above 85 again. So then this is the second time we have deplaned this flight without taking off. And they're like, all right, well, there's not really anything we can do because we have already tried to let the ambient air come in and cool this. So they're like, we're just going to have to wait. We're just going to hope that it cools even below 83. So it's like maybe 76, and then we let you on, and it gets 84, and then we take off. So 2 more hours pass. It's about 6 o'clock, and they pulled that crew, the pilots, everybody off the plane, and said that their window of being eligible to fly for alertness and safety reasons is about to expire, and they are going to have to drive a crew in from Fort Lauderdale 2 hours away. They'll arrive there at 8:30, and then we will reevaluate it from there. Still no conclusion on if this flight was going to happen or not. In the meantime, half the people have already asked for their refunds, and they're either driving back to Michigan or they're going ahead and driving up to Miami and taking it 6 a.m. Delta nonstop, which is what I was leaning towards if they cancel the flight. Yeah. By then, the pilot comes off, while we're sitting there, and I start talking to him for about a good 20 minutes. Solid dude. He was from Northern Indiana. His co-pilot was from Milwaukee. Co-pilot didn't talk nearly as much as the main pilot, but so he goes and he says, you guys know that you only would have been warm for about 10 minutes, right? Like, what do you mean? He goes, well, what happens is, obviously, when you're on the tarmac, you're feeling hot. But then as the plane starts moving, the air is going to blow harder. That part I didn't understand. But then the next part was very common sense. When you're in the air, Matt, 1,000 miles in the air, the ambient temperature is much cooler than the interior temperature. So he said, you guys technically would have just had to have put up with it being like 85, 88 for 10 minutes. And because of that, your whole day is now ruined. And that's kind of where I got the insight that it's not even an FAA thing. It's just Spirit doing it. And he was candid about that. Nasty. So I was very irritated at this point. But then I'm thinking, all right, it's already 7 o'clock and the flight was supposed to leave at 11. Let's wait until the new crew gets here before we decide to go to Miami and fly out from there. New crew gets there around at 9 o'clock. They continue to let it cool. By then the sun has just started to set. Sun fully sets. And then we start boarding again at 11:30, get home at 3:30, logged in for work the next day at 8 a.m. And then last night slept another 5 hours or so. And here I am. So didn't stutter as much as I thought I would, as I usually do when I'm sleep deprived. So this is a massive W. And now you guys know that I will not be flying Spirit again, even though I will admit it was the first issue I've ever had with them. And it was my first issue ever in the flying space.
Well, it's a good thing we don't record this podcast late and that we're keeping you up when you could very well be asleep. It's a good thing we do this in the smack middle of the day, right? So that's good. Holy crap. I would have been on the local news that night, I think. They would have gotten a look at a deranged man from the state of Michigan at RSW Airport in good old sunny Florida.
I would have been the Florida man in the articles this time.
Correct. Yeah, I really would have turned the whole thing on their head. Well, you did it. Congratulations. And you left out my favorite part of the story that you told me before we recorded, is that two of your buddies just said, screw it, we're getting in a rental car. Because why sit in an airport? And honestly, even though it was the incorrect decision, like, I believe what you said, you landed when they weren't even out of Georgia.
Correct. They had entered Georgia, and we texted them when we boarded the plane, and they had entered Georgia. And I will admit, like, both of these buddies, they love like road trips, and they're the adventure type. So if it's their mold of making that decision. Yeah, but man, did it backfire?
That's what I'm saying. Like, even though they made just the absolute incorrect decision, I stand with them. Like, I'd rather be in motion, going to my destination, than just sitting somewhere, just letting my fate be in someone else's hands.
That's exactly what they said.
It's, you know what? I stand with those two guys. So for them too, those are true diehards. Let's just get me in motion, just 2 miles an hour at a time. That's right.
Yeah, I call me high maintenance or whatever, but I was not going to sit in a car for 20 hours.
Oh no, it's not fun.
Right. If I could have helped it. And it was over 10 of my buddies that were there. I told them, if every single one of you want to drive back, be my guest. I will drive to Miami myself and take the 6 a.m. nonstop Delta back. And no hard feelings. That's what we'll do. Luckily, 10 of them agreed with me. 2 of them decided to do the adventurous thing. And they stopped at a Buc-ee's, which I think that's one of the things that is like a Southern is it a grocery store? Is it a chain restaurant?
It's like a little bit of everything. I think it's like gas station, food, grocery. It's one of those. There might be one up here in Metro Detroit pretty soon. I don't know. But like, stop on the way, because you're not stopping for Buc-ee's or Taco Bell on the airport. But I get it. So, folks, if you're one of the sick people that listen this late, and if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead, comment below. We're going to need the airport emoji and the person sweating emoji. We're going to need this is a 2 emoji request here for all 6 of you that are still sick enough to listen to all this. Airplane emoji and the guy sweating, sticking his tongue out emoji, like that's what we're looking for. So
Matt, we might not be able to stop at Buc-ee's in the airplane, but we got a $7 meal voucher from Spirit, and these peanut M&Ms were had.
Let's go.
Oh.
$7 at an airport gets you a bottle of water and like the cheese that goes on top of a cheeseburger. So thank you.
And then this was also part of my $7 meal voucher. It's a canned apple juice from Minute Maid. And then, unfortunately, since this was $5 on its own, I still did have to pay, I think, $4 or $5 out of pocket across these three things. But you know, when you can get an apple juice and M&Ms and an Evian water 50% off, you have to do it. So
it all worked out in the end.
Who's the real winner, Matt? Who's the real winner?
It all worked out in the end. That's what I'm talking about, man.
You know what, Matt? The same day this was happening on Monday, and people can fact check this, the day that Spirit ruined my entire day, their stock shot up 16.8%. They were the highest mover on the day.
I see what's going on. There was no foul odor coming from the AC. I see it now. I don't know how. I don't really know how the stock market works, but like I know funny business just happened. So I've heard enough. I've made a ruling.
Oh well, I'm here. You know what's gonna happen, Matt? What's gonna happen is I'm gonna take this to the top. I'm gonna get some sort of compensation or travel voucher back, and then I'm gonna have to fly Spirit again just to simply use that voucher. So they never lose. They never lose.
That's how I get you. Nope. No, sir. That's what I'm talking about. Well, folks, love all of you. I genuinely mean that. JT, congratulations on making it back home.
Yes.
Until let's do this again next week.
Sounds like a plan. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment the 2 emojis Matt said.
That's right.
Go ahead and go ahead and tweet those at the show on Twitter too. So appreciate everyone listening, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next week.